Hello and welcome back again for the discussion of the movie we just saw, the festival movie Revised. And I'm happy to introduce the media arts duo Depart with Gregor Ladenhauf and Leonhard Lass. Sorry. Nice to have you here.
Thank you. Hi.
And of course, Yazdan Zand, the director of the movie.
Hi.
So maybe you, for starters, you could tell us a little bit about how the collaboration with the Depart came about and the process of the movie.
Actually, I would say it was rather a spontaneous chance for us, for me, more specifically, to get to know the guys. First, during this home delivery program in the Ars Electronica Center, I got to know them. I had the pleasure to be there for the first session of another broadcast that we had in the Ars Electronica Center, and immediately got interesting for me. I got to check their work. I got to read a bit about them, and just a few weeks before the festival, actually, when the idea of making a documentation about the festival came up. It was kind of clear to me that I would really like to work with them. First, the idea of the documentation was somehow like last year's, as I was also involved with the festival last year. It was rather documenting the festival, so getting to archive the things that were happening during the festival. But this year, because of the differences which are kind of obvious, it was a lot of documentation already happening, because a big chunk of the festival was happening and broadcasting online. So the idea came up that this year we do it rather unconventional or different than last year's, to jump basically into to this cold water, to really intensively work on something and finish it basically by the end of the festival. Yeah, I'm really happy that I got to know you guys, and it was a pleasure.
You held the deadline, you know. Your night was successful. So.
Thanks.
Yeah, so it was a rather close look into your private lives, I would say. It's a very different festival film, so to say. So would you care to talk about a little bit about your experience of the movie?
Yes, I mean, it helped a lot that the guys were really nice, and of course we now know them quite well. They were shadowing us, which is very fitting to the project as well, since Vienna. So we've met them in Vienna. They came to our studio, and there were a lot of situations that were unexpected. Of course, I had my son in the atelier during the first scheduled filming, but everybody was flexible enough, and I think in the end it took some time to get used to it. And when it's stressful, of course, Yazdan's ambitious schedule was not always the first things on our priority list, but it worked out well. And also we had to see the festival kind of through your eyes. You brought us in contact with many people, like Sarah, for instance, that I wouldn't have called without you. So in the end, I think it was interesting for both sides. What he said.
I mean, it was a rather close look for this amount of time in the way how you collaborate, you two, and also during the time of Corona now. How did you perceive? Did you perceive a change of the collaboration of Depart as a duo? Or?
Well, I think not as much. Maybe only during the heavy lockdown period. Of course, everybody was very cautious about it, and so we didn't meet during that time. But apart from that, I think our work schedule is very varying. So it really depends on how much we work intensely on a project or not. And so I think the way we work is mostly like Leo described it. So we think a lot already with the other in mind. And I guess so a lot of times it's like we meet and then we talk about it, but still when we're not at the same spot, we talk about it at the same time, you know. So it's not like telepathy, but kind of.
Yeah.
And we have separated studios anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Really?
because we have so different like needs. Gregor needs like a soundproof acoustic studio, and I work with music on all the time. So I want daylight. He needs different environments. So, and the separation makes sense. And of course, during intense projects like that, we sit together in either studio a lot. While depends on what we are working on right now, and we kind of. When we started intensely, we kind of considered ourselves of being of the same household, so the rules didn't apply to us. We had to just, I mean, we couldn't avoid our presence anyway.
So you were featured in a couple of formats, like with the Transient Shadows in the movie, also in the expanded animation festival panel with the Entropy Gardens, for which you received the honorary mention, I believe. So I want to talk a little bit about the Transient Shadows on Hauptplatz, because it really goes into the topic of COVID-19 a little bit. Was it just the site that inspired you, or is it something you consistently do to jump on a very new topic, or was it how did it this?
I think there's one thing that we like to have is this when things all of a sudden fall together, and we are interested in this, as I said, like these structures that are several things and that are kind of in a transient state, because it's a marble, it's a stone, it's a rock, but on the other hand it's a cloud. So it's somewhere in between, and the transition is undefined, so to say. And then when so many things come together, usually you have the feeling, okay, this is the thing that we have to do. And this, of course, this relation of the Pestsäule with a pandemic itself, and also this relation with something that is airborne, like a cloud. Now we're talking all about press, and all the installation is all about press. It's all about this rhythm of press and how it is transformed to something almost sculptural, back to something that is completely ephemeral, and with all these like mythical and symbolical relations that we can dig out and that relates again to the place. This is something that always interests us, but usually we are not that on like newsworthy topics. This is never our intention. We're more like on archetypical topics, or more generic topics, basically.
Which in this case was like both, in a way. So it was part of the actual situation, but still, I mean, a lot of people have talked about it in the last few days who have seen it. They got the idea already, even though we're not like forcing it onto you. But I mean, the respiratory circle that we depict somehow, but not like totally in your face, but it's there, and everybody gets it somehow, and people see the sculpture in a different way as well. So we really achieved what we wanted to, I guess, and also we work a lot with synchronicity somehow. We really try to find these things and moments where completely maybe unrelated things suddenly interconnect, and it was really like a let's say a lucky situation in a bad moment, that you could say. So, but so the idea, like really, it was there from the start. So we didn't have to work out a lot, and then we just
No, basically it was the first call when they said Hauptplatz. Can you imagine doing something on Hauptplatz? We immediately say, finally, it's we can work with this Pestsäule, because they're all over Austria. They're such dominant structures, and they are interesting in how they are formalized in a way. And I mean, we live in Vienna. There's a huge like column as well in the center of the city, and they're all around. And yes, you pass by, you don't even really know what this meant and what it's for. And of course, it's highly charged with religious symbolism, but we try to strip that down to what it's really the basic shapes and the basic ideas. And
Thank you. So, Yazdan, you watched the involvement of the artwork closely. So how did you go about choosing the material, what to show and what not? Could you elaborate on that a little?
Yes, I think Gregor put it really perfectly, I would say. Also in the interview we hear it, that I immediately picked up this duality or polarity of in general, your works. And I mean, when you look closely, you can kind of extend it to a lot of things, but also the fact that you're two people with definitely two different mindsets, but at the same time you found your balance between these poles. And for me, immediately was this, I would say, softness, this vividness of the projection, and also the weight and the heaviness of the Pestsäule. And I was really shocked, but I mean, I could have imagined, but the reactions from people were also really interesting for me. I tried to kind of put this into a better explanation, how this art in public spaces and urban spaces could maybe even for one moment could just stop the daily routine. And I mean, during the Ars Festival, at least for me, it was never a routine, so there is no daily life kind of, but I saw it closely, that people, the reactions, how they perceived it, and how, like, also we talked about it. One of the main things, like from the beginning of the documentation, was to kind of see how the artists, the activists, the researchers are dealing with the pandemic, or with this global situation. With Gregor, for example, we had the talk that the things that inspired you changed. I mean, it's a natural kind of evolvement, and of course for you, based on your profession, it was a bit different, but that's how it is happening. I think this year's festival was pretty interesting in this sense for me, to see how the approach of artists about conceptualizing, about producing, basically has changed, and that's what we try to reflect in the documentation.
And what I also really liked artistically on the one hand, and personally on the other hand, was the interaction with, I believe it was Sarah Petkus, on the cell phone, because it shows how you keep contact anyway, and it was nice that you put it in the movie, showing that it goes on in a way. Yeah, a big part of the last part of the movie showed where you went through the festival and looked around. So you're many years with Ars Electronica, we know you very well. How did you perceive the festival this year? I mean, it's different, of course. So,
yes.
Can you?
Yes, I mean, it's very obvious for everybody that visited it. It's extremely important that it has happened, and I think everybody wanted it so much to happen, and it's happening. So this is great. On the other hand, whenever you visit Linz during the Ars, it's a transformed city. And this aspect is just missing. But it's missing for both sides, for the people, the locals that managed to come here, and also the people that couldn't come, like Sarah. She's saying, yeah, oh, it's so sad not to be there. Everything is just, yes, I have to imagine so many things along. And yeah, we miss them too, because they are part of the crowd usually. And I think it's a symbolic act to maintain the festival in a way that it has been maintained. It's super great. Also, when you walk through the campus, you almost have these missing people in your head. You say, yeah, imagine this when COVID is when we have triumphed and when it's full of people again. And yes, so it's like this. It's an exception, and it's also an experiment. And I think Ars is in this position where it needs to experiment and make a choice of doing it that way or that, and nobody knows what the right situation will be. And we are on several festivals, or let's say virtualized festivals right now, and it's everybody's trying something different. And some things work better and some things fail, but that's how it is, and everybody accepts it. It's an improvised situation, I think.
Yeah, that's where we are at the moment.
Yes.
Yes, because you have the comparison as well with Mutek, because we had a call the other day as well with Sonar and Mutek. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we also just launched Mutek Festival this week. We have a work there as well, and it's a similar situation. I mean, we are on the other side in this case, where we are there but not there, and yes, you kind of you try to do as much as possible.
So Yazdan, if you would have to pinpoint what you wanted to capture with the movie, what would you?
That's a, I don't know, it's a kind of a, I wouldn't say that this was the first priority, but it was also a challenge to see, is it possible to do such a thing, to kind of include this as an artwork in a festival so intensively. But definitely the main question, I would say, of my mind in this situation was what is going to be the new norm? How is this change in inspiration or change in discussion or dialogue between artists, audience, or artists amongst themselves, or society in general? How would it change, or in which direction it is going, and who's going to take care of it, basically? And I think nobody else other than artists and researchers could do this. But yeah, I think the main question was what is going to be the new norm, or how people are dealing with this
and it evolved
revision.
Yeah, and it evolved that you work together so closely with Depart, because that's the way you could capture it best. Or
exactly, the main concept of the project started with again in this kind of duality, to have this local artist as well as the international artist who physically couldn't come because it was not advised, it was not even possible, and to put them in a dialogue, basically. That was I would say, this was to show that how this conversation could keep going on. It was the challenge I was thinking for myself. But of course, what we saw just now is a work in progress. I mean, we had basically 6 days to shoot and 2 days to edit. But I'm hoping to go deeper into the same topic.
That's a tough time frame, 5-6 days, and you guys preparing the artworks. That's tough. So what's the season holding for you? You're going to Mutek, and or you're not going actually?
Actually, we just had the situation that there's a festival in Madrid, the LEV, at the Matadero, and they also, we were still in contact with them, and they always ask me if I want to come, and I said yes. I'm positive about that, and but the last few days, the situation changed a lot. So they told me it's not advisable to come anymore. So our artwork, the Entropy Gardens, will be there without us, which is a good thing. But because I guess VR is maybe even suitable for situations like this now, because not a lot of people can see it. Only one person at a time. It just has to be disinfected in between. But it's a pity, of course, that I can't go be there. But I think there will be more situations like this in the near future, and hopefully not anymore next year.
Yeah, that's what we all hope. Yes. So thank you very much for joining the discussion now. Wish you all the best for the future endeavors.
Can we also say a few words of thank you, because I mean, for us this project also was so special because the team was so great. All in the front, Manuela Navo, that made this possible, and I mean, she had this vision from before the COVID situation, and then there was like a flat line where nobody knew what's going to happen, and then Manu called again and said, we are going to make this happen, and she did. And we are extremely grateful for all the people that supported us here. So, like the light guys that were, we couldn't do any light tests, and they were just there. We talked and we discussed, and they prepared, and they were flexible enough to just do it on the spot. And with every like run through, it became what it was in the end, basically. So a lot of improvisation and a great team.
Pros everywhere.
Yes, pros everywhere.
Yeah.
And congratulations.
Thanks. I would also use the last few seconds. I mean, of course, for me also, the friends who helped me, it was impossible to do it without them. And of course, you guys that kind of paired with us as your transient shadows.
So,
yes.
Thank you very much.